So let's start off with some, there's a lot to just unpack here. So I'm going to talk about the 2021 presidential budget request. And of course, our friends at the Planetary Society at planetary.org, they do a really good job of making a nice little chart for us here to run down. Basically, keep going, Ben. There you go. This is the fiscal year 2021 presidential budget request. And of course, this isn't necessarily what NASA's actually going to get. It still has to be approved by Congress. But this still, you typically can take this and this will give you a good sense of, the direction of which the administration and of where NASA will likely be heading. So when we look at this, 2020 enacted overall budget for NASA was $22 billion, $629 million. And the presidential request is going up to $25 billion, $246 million. That's a 12% increase in overall budget funding for NASA, which is, of course, in my opinion, a really good thing. I'd much rather see 12% increase in NASA's budget than a 12% increase in, say, military budget. For me personally, I know everyone's got their own thoughts on things, but here's where things get interesting. Unfortunately, the science would be reduced by 12%.
What does that even mean? I feel like everything they do is science.
Well, you're not wrong. I'm pretty sure, like when it's just overall science, it's like literally, when NASA is doing a research paper or something on, say, how CO2 interacts on Mars or something with something like that is a purely scientific NASA science budget, and there's a lot of science. Think about all of the little things that are like, literally just research at NASA.
Yeah.
That's actually, but although science is kind of it's the overall topic of all of these things. So I can actually tell you exactly what those are, but in general, it's kind of like, you're right. It's like basically the bulk of what NASA really does is science.
It looks like this is kind of the breakdown here where science.
Yeah.
So
yeah, there's planetary science, Earth science, astrophysics, WFIRST, which is an upcoming mission proposal, James Webb Space Telescope, and heliophysics. So yeah, that's the breakdown of like all of the science.
So the biggest hit was astrophysics, it looks like, and WFIRST is just dead.
Canceled.
According to this, yeah.
Yeah, so WFIRST was a really cool, I believe it's an infrared telescope that I believe it was a leftover NRO satellite that basically got donated to NASA. And, then basically like, hey, retrofit it, turn it into a really high almost like a Hubble Junior. But it'd be able to do things that Hubble can't do. It was a really exciting mission. And considering that a bulk of the actual hardware was donated, it's really, really a shame to see this go. Like, that's just one of those, really? You're going to let go of that?
$511 million, this looks like what 2020 enacted was for that.
Yep. And now just full-blown cut. And here's the thing. I don't know if that'll pass. I'm guessing that'll have a lot of backlash because it will have a lot of... I think a lot of people at NASA will... I don't really know how that works exactly, but I'm pretty sure people will be like, no. This one's really cool.
Yeah.
James Webb Space Telescope surprisingly actually will get a decrease under this proposal of only 2%. But yeah, in general, like I said, especially the Earth sciences take a pretty big hit, and astrophysics, like, I don't know, it just seems like, why would you not want NASA studying astrophysics?
It definitely seems like, I guess not knowing the details of how all of these pieces interact with each other. Like if you want to, launch something out to Mars, astrophysics is probably something you should be spending money on, right? Because there's a lot of what happens with those things that you need to understand in order to do that. So,
although I think a lot of it's really advanced astrophysics, like way beyond generally simple orbital mechanics, like
beyond anything practical.
Yeah, practical for now, like really, really advanced, like black hole.
Sure.
Type of stuff. Like the cool stuff though that is important. But here's where things get more interesting. This is more my side of things. This is the exploration is seeing a massive 46% budget increase proposal. Now surprisingly, you'd think NASA budget increase. You'd really think what's the first thing you think of when you think of NASA and a vehicle?
Space shuttle.
Come on, Ben. That was 9 years ago.
Well,
Nowadays.
you mean in general or like right
Nowadays. Now.
Oh. Well, yeah, it's the moon missions, right?
And what vehicle? I'm putting this on you. What vehicle is the one that NASA's been developing this whole time?
The SLS.
Exactly. So you'd think if a NASA budget increase of 46%, you'd think SLS would get an increase too. Nope. SLS would actually get a decrease, and so would the Orion crew vehicles. Kind of shocking to me under this proposal, mostly because the SLS would no longer be developing the upgraded upper stage, the Block 2 upper stage, and basically this proposal would be like, nope, just start producing SLS vehicles. We're just going to throw Orion on top of it, and you're going to be good to go. Like we're just going to use Orion basically as a way to get a big, heavy Orion capsule out to the moon safely, get our astronauts up there, no problem. Because the big increase, you'll see two big increases. One, for Lunar Gateway, of 64% increase. And Lunar Gateway is basically the rectilinear orbit platform that would just go back and forth between Earth and the moon. And you can think of it as like a reusable command module. So you could launch a smaller command module, put crew on board a bigger thing. So if they're up there for weeks, they actually have some accommodations and more room for science and activities. And it also would be, steerable, so you could change orbits and change your destination to the moon. It's actually a pretty cool system. The more I get to know it, the more I am somewhat in favor of it. But the biggest increase, 462% budget increase for a lunar lander. And that's what it's gonna take. You need that if you're anywhere talking about landing humans on the moon in 2024. Like, there needs to be hardware built and tested and being seriously proposed. Even if this all goes through, imagining a company truly building a lunar lander and having it ready to land on the moon in time seems ridiculous, if by 2024, but at least maybe even like by 2024 with traditional stuff, I could see, something landing uncrewed by 2024 and getting humans on the moon soon thereafter. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Isn't it it's still, mind-blowing. It was like 50 years ago that we did this. And now we're still like, I don't know, maybe 5-6 years from now, we'll maybe, we got to put in $10 billion. It's like, it seems a little bit ridiculous, but.
Well, we definitely don't do things as willy-nilly as we used to, Yeah. We definitely take a lot more thought and consideration.
So looking at this budget, so the 2020 number here is $600 million, and the proposed is $3.3 billion.
Billion, yep.
How, what did we spend $600 million on already?
Well, for this
because it's just
year,
a concept at this point, right? Nothing's actually been built, right?
But this year, for 2020, a lot of money actually got awarded to a bunch of different companies. Boeing, Lockheed Martin. Boeing kind of had their own plan. Lockheed Martin did that joint venture lander concept. Blue Moon has a full thing, and so it got money sent out to actually start developing hardware and really coming up with real proposals. So it's kind of this. The cool thing is that the lunar landers portion will be very commercialized and will be very, this company versus that company. So the first bit of that funding, although it seems it seems like a lot of money, could save a ton of money in the long run, because you end up with companies really putting their best foot forward, putting together really aggressive proposals and really wanting to win these contracts. So, you're actually pitting them against each other. And that's kind of what the $600 million has done so far, is given those companies room to actually develop and build
to go do something.
Go do stuff, yep. So we'll see that this year. We'll see more and more concrete plans actually laid out this year for the people that won that first round of funding. So that's pretty cool. Space exploration technology went up 43%, space operations up 1%, aeronautics 4.5%, STEM engagement 0, minus 100%. It dropped down to 0. So there would be no more government-funded STEM engagement programs.
That sucks. You're talking about schools and stuff, right? Like kids.
I'm pretty sure, yeah. I'm pretty sure it's just full-blown materials for schools and things like that.
I feel like 120 million could go a long way.
It goes a long way in a school, and it's almost nothing in your budget.
Right, like when you think about it, what's an elementary? Like, how many kids are in say a third grade class or something, And how much does it take to have materials and stuff like, I don't know,
Right.
$1,000 or something?
Right.
You know, a couple thousand bucks tops, and then do that across every school in the nation. Like,
Right.
that to
I
me,
know.
that sucks. Like, that's a bummer for sure.
It does. And the lunar lander getting 3.37 billion. If you took 120 million from there, you wouldn't even notice.
Yeah, it's still a
know?
huge jump. 3.2 billion.
Right.
You know.
Right. So that's a bummer. But safety, security, mission services goes up 3.3%. Construction and environmental compliance up 45%. That's good, just because there's a lot of infrastructure at NASA, especially down at Kennedy Space Center, that's just fading away. It's
Oh, got
rusting
it.
away. There's a lot of construction. I would like to see stuff revamped, and they've been doing a good job actually compared to the past like 5 years when I come out to NASA. You know, our 2014 was the first time I was almost right at a hotel right next door here, basically Cocoa Beach. Was the first time I really came down here, and man, it was derelict at that time. And some of those buildings are more derelict, but other of them have been revamped and actually getting new blood. So
That's what happens when you build stuff by the ocean, man. I mean, it just
it's
you know,
true.
they got to
It's
stop
true.
doing that. Start launching from Kansas or something. I don't know.
No one cares about St. Louis, right?
Right. Yeah.
If it lands, but now I'm gonna have people be like, St. Louis isn't in Kansas. I'll be like, well, guess what? The trajectory, if you launch from Kansas, flies over St. Louis. Suckers. Yeah.
We care about Kansas. We don't care about St. Louis. That's the summation here.
Except for City Museum. Got to keep City Museum. That's
Oh,
the greatest
right.
place in the world.
That's right. That's right.
Keep that place. Okay, so anyway, and yeah, then the NASA Inspector General up 6%. That's a good thing. We want oversight in a lot of these things. Hey, thanks for checking us out, guys. I hope you enjoyed this clip from our podcast.
We do a weekly show here on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe to Our Ludicrous Future, where we discuss all the things that are going to make our future totally ludicrous.
You can join us here on YouTube or at any of your favorite podcast places. Plus, if you want to get some behind-the-scenes stuff and join a cool community, you can help support the channel at patreon.com. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, guys.